Shabbat. המשך עין בייס, חלק א', עמוד קוף זין, סעיף דיבור המשל הלוס השם כל goyim. So we were holding on Amud Tov Zayin, very close to the beginning of the Amud. That the Klal B'Kol HaKedusha was Inyan HaBittul, and Tzad Kedusha was Bittul to the Eloki, and was greater Bittul as Alsmer, the Kabbalah, Mitzad HaKedusha Mikitur Shosei Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu K'mavur in Perikot Beis in Tanya. Ve'ilo HaKlippos Inyanim is lahefek miseh inyan ha'pirud v'ha'yeshes v'ha'gasus until they become a davar nifrad. And like Pali said, ani v'afsiyoid or li yo'eri v'ani yisisini, but there's a whole diuk in that the way Rabbein quote that pasuk is not exactly according to the lashon of the pasuk in the Haftarah. They sort of ma'arvu two psukim over there, which Pali is quoted as saying that the river is mine, but he says it in different ways, and the way they quote, the way the Alter Rebbe quotes in Tanya, and that's the way they quote it in Rov HaDrushim, is it's like a combination of the two psukim. It's not the lashon of one pasuk or the other. So the Rebbe's got a ha'ara about it, but he remains more or less b'tzorik here and why they made that shinoi, but they do. If you're careful, you'll see that that's not a pasuk, that's not the lashon in either of the Pesukim. It's like a combination of both of them. Shezeu tachlis ha'hester, shalidei zeh hu agasses shebohem, ad she'oma mi havaya, asher yeshma b'koiloi, or he said lo yadaiti es havaya, even though he knew it, it's a Matthias of Elokus, from who in the Gemara is kodolei Elokah, the Elokayor, but even from lo yadati, the idea of Amshach HaPnimiyus, Es Havaya, the Indian of Elokus is Lamayla Mi'ateva, Lamayla Mi'metzias Ha'olam. Hine, Gam B'chinas Zu, V'hechreach Sheyumshach Lahem Chayes Me'er Ein Tzei Baruch Hu. Dim Loi Kein, Loi Hoi Shum Metzias Klau. Even the Klippos, Gam B'chinas Zu, even how they are, and even of Tachlis HaGasus, even to the point of tining Ani v'Afsioid, but that's Mafrida Tam Miamitis. Miamitis Yehudi is Barak Mahu over there in Perik Kopeis, Tanya. Nonetheless, it's a hechreach that they are also Makabo Eiz HaChayes, Me'er Ein Tzei Baruch Hu. The Im Loi Kein, Loi Hoi Shum Metzias Klal, it wouldn't be shy for anything if it wasn't Me'er Kodesh Baruch Hu, wasn't Machaya there. But just that we'll see as we go along that there's a certain definitional Hagdorah in what we call the Inyan Achayes. And that's what he now says in the brackets. V'yesh leima da Achayes shelahem azu rak l'kiyum metziusa. Only that they should continue to exist. Kiyum meaning a continuality here. The word kiyum in Chassidus can have different mashmoyas. Over here we can suggest that kiyum means like the hemshech, that the being, the fact that they're there. Kiyum metziusam. The gam mashahein chayim ein ze b'chinas chayes dahainu b'chinas oerve v'kiloi. V'gam shemoi shiyis boya b'somuch שאין מבחינת חייס עצמי, רק מה שנמצאים במציאס, טוב קוף זין. Here already begins the definitional Agdora, like the clarity of the definitional status that we're going to give to the Chayes or the Klippos as we go along. And here the Rebbe says it very clearly, that Oya, which is Nimshach, Mitzad HaKedusha, Mitzad the from Bittul to Elokus. That means that they're then Makabel Chayazu Ba'even Shel Oyer V'Gilui. In other words, that you're given Chayas, you're here in the world, and why are you given Chayas? in order that there should be oyer v'gilui. In other words, that you're given oyer v'gilui in order that you should give it further. In other Reishis Chokmah, you're supposed to be lichtig. You're supposed to have some sort of a illumination about you that emanates that light and generates it, gives it up. And then saying from Gilui, what Gil is Megala, something to a Makabel. That's the whole concept of Gilui. That you're given that lichtigkeit, not that you should just keep it for yourself, or just be Meir, your Daladamas, or your Cheder, or your little Safsal in the Beis HaMedrash, but you're given that in order that it should be Mizkala, and it should be a Inyan. So a Yid is supposed to be both a lichtiker and a levediker. So if he is, then that's a sign that he's getting chayes. If he's not, then it's a sign he's not getting chayes. Now that doesn't mean to say that he's not alive. He could be he's alive, but that type of living is just for the sake of kiyum hametzias, just to keep you going. In other words, you can be mekabel a sort of chayes that it's all in and just to see that you be there, just to keep you going. But if you're mekabel chayes, the musik of chayes, and therefore the word chayes means lebedik, that's in Pashtus what it means, then if you're a kli to chayus, then you receive, and b'mele your tafkid is to give off oyer v'gilui, light and revelation. In other words, you're a illuminated giver. But if you're not an illuminated giver, somehow or another you're being ma'alev master on the chayes that you should be getting, then you're just there, you're there with kiyum mitzius on, and that's not a good situation. And the chayes, if we can call it chayes, it's not chayes atshmi, it's not emes etzem dike chayes, it's nimshah, just to keep you going. So therefore, rak mashenim toim b'metzias. You can't say you're not there, but that's why you are. That's what you are. You're just there. And so the chayes continues to keep you like that. And therefore, that's the answer. And therefore, it's always a little bit tzorem as a oizen. When you meet a Yid and you ask him, "How are you? What's master?" And he says, "No, melept. Melept." If I always mayor a person who always says that to me. I always mayor him that you shouldn't say that. That's not because that's exactly what's stated in the Siddur. It's just there, keeping yourself alive, keeping yourself going, and that's what's stated. That is a chazon, not mitzvah kedusha. You have to say Baruch Hashem, but that's already a hoidah to the shomer. There's such a thing as Baruch, and there's such a thing as Hashem, and there's such a thing as as a tafkid in the world that comes from Hashem, etc. etc. And there's a dinim from Sameach Bechelkoi, where the man knows that what he got, he got it from the Eibishter, and b'ma'at or b'meruba, that can be by him, even from meruba. It can be a great inyan, because with that, you can already do a lot, even if it doesn't look to be compared to Goyse Gvirim or noch as also mentioned. Of upon him it's possible lifoil b'zeh harbe, and does it in him from chayes, so meir bechelkoi. What the touch is that he sees in his chelik, what's the pnimis on them, and his chelik is for kilo. What could be greater? What could be a greater ashiras than being able to give off forever? V'gilim, being able to be meifit in yonim b'svivose v'chulei v'chulei. Mashenken, if you just have no melept, that's cholila a loshen hamuva kan as a shaykhus to the other side cholila. Kameish koso v'yato mechaya es kulam gama klipes v'sitra. In other words, that here we see the usage of the word machaye as kulam, you give life to them. In other words, that you preserve them or keep them going. So we have to say that viato machaye es kulam is koilol also the sitra achra, but in that gufa there would be madregas. If you're talking about pnimis hakedusha, then the ato machaye es kulam has another mashmoyet. But when it gets down into the clippers, even though it's also called Machaye, it's another type of Machaye. It's not the Indian for Chayes Achmi. Vach she'im hoya chiyusa nimshik lahem bekiruv hoya nivlo bahem. So what's the rak? The rak is like a sort of a turn away. In other words, you might tell him, well, what's the Avishta keeps them all going. So, what's the problem with him giving to them also in a way that it'll be just like everywhere. Ata machaya es kulam, give them also chayas, and then they'll do something with it. Maybe the fact that it comes to them, but tzimtzum ha b'yesa v'chulu, maybe that's the reason. So he says, no, that's the reason why they are like they are. He said, no, if we would give it to them, even from kilu, meaning that it comes in such a way that the oil of a gilui is felt and is given further, then it would be just nivlo bohem. Okay, Mishukosov nivlo is Yisrael. Now that's an interesting pasuk. That's a pasuk in Hosea Anovi, where he's talking about the Inuf and the Shemrei. That's either which is on the Perek nowadays. The Malchus Shemrei, when there was the whole section of Eretz Yisrael that was called Yisrael, Malchus Yisrael. And that was in the Shemrei. So he talks over there about, how the Malachim over there and the whole Hanhoga is not how it should be, Cholila. And that's some of the Navuas over there. I like the Navuas of the Pizur of the Asaras Hashvatim. That's what happened. It's interesting how things just pop into your mouth without knowing. I happened to mention the whole Indian of the Asaras Hashvatim just a couple of hours ago. It wasn't my intention. And even here in the Maimah, I didn't really intend mentioning it, Mamish, but there's a couple of Schwarzi guys that are doing cleaning in the rooms now. They look like Schwarzis, and they do actually quite a good job. And one of them doesn't talk Hebrew, or doesn't talk Hebrew in English for sure not. And the boss, like he's just foreman, he does. He talks a little bit of Hebrew, English for sure not, but a little bit of Hebrew you can manage with him. So I was having a whole conversation with them, and I asked Yitro, my bocha, that helps me in different things. I asked him, at these American, they don't talk in English, who are they? They're Schwarzes. He said they're Ethiopians. They're Ethiopians. So totally here, Mihai Mele, who are they? Are they mamish native Ethiopians, or are they the B'nai, or are these people that, there's a chashash that maybe they're Yidden or Chaysen or something? So he said to me, well, what sort of Yidden could be in Ethiopia? I said to this Bocher. So I said, well, I think there's some people who feel that the Asaras Hashvatim were Nivloim in that area. That maybe some of these Ethiopians that, want to become Yidden, or Chaponim was all, if they hadn't fallen into the hands of the Tzionim, Rachmanin and Klan. They came over and the government got their grimy hands on them. It could be a lot of them would have gone through Giyur, or at least that's the basic requirement, can in some way, ensure their status within the realm of Kedusha, if they are over Giyur. It's not poita some of the very grave sfeikis that might be there, but at least it makes it possible to build on something. He said to me, what would they be doing Yidden over there? What could be over there in Ethiopia? So I told him that there's a svara that maybe over there the Shashvatim were Nishlachim Nivloim over there. And that's exactly what they told. Nivla Yisrael, the Yisrael is referring to the Malchus Yisrael, which was the Malchus Shemrei in the time of the period of Malchus. That's what the Pasuk's talking about. And it's talking about the Nivla, that they're going to be, Rachmanin and Klan, they have to swallow it up. They stay taught. What do we see from that? We see that there can be an Inyan, which is basically Yisrael. And subcos of the word Yisrael is Mareh ala Madregen Kedusha Dei Gevoiho. And yet, nonetheless, it can be an Azar, even for Nivla. And Nivla means, what you might say, lost to all workable purposes, lost. That's what it implies. And therefore, that's what happens if the chayes is nimchuk to them even from kiruv. In other words, that they're aware of what their chayes is, and they're not aware of it. It becomes nivla, and that's mitzad the choysa habitol. Mitzad that ain't kli kabbalah leachayis, and therefore it becomes nivla. V'lo hoyo behem b'chinas chayis klal. It wouldn't be in a form of chayis at all. Ukumai v'tivlano sheva poris how's it called? Hadakois v'harois es sheva poris Himalayas. It does that the sheva poris harois they swallowed the sheva poris hatovas v'Himalayas. I'm sorry, the Tivlana has Sheva HaPoreis v'lo yinoida ki bo el kirbena. Now that's not written in the first pasuk, that's written later when Pare, I think, repeated the Cholim to Yosef. Then he used that expression, that they were swallowed by the Sheva Poreis HaToves. They were swallowed by the 7 thin poris, and you could never tell an eater because if they're thin and they ate some big ones, and they should have got fatter. It should have been noticeable on them that they'd swallowed all these poris. And he said, they'd swallowed them, and they didn't have any effect, no noticeable effect whatsoever on those who swallowed them. Which means that the inyan and the bliya is a form of avadoin. It's a bliya b'derech nela mina metzias keilu. Shaloi nasu lehem mizeh shum chay. Now we need to understand. I mean, he just said that atum chayis kula. And he just says that there is a chayis that's nimtza to the sitra achar, but it's not chayis atzmi, and it's not in a even of oyer v'gilui, but it's in a even of kiyum metziusom bilvad. So we have to say that in this whole chapter here, and in Kama Mekemis in Tzidus, including in Tanya, in Perek Kof Beis over there, we have to say that we use the word chayis in two efanim, and that's Yesh Lema, what the Rebbe was maramis in that brackets. When we say chayis in the normal sense of kedusha, when we talk in a normal even of amshachas chayis, then we mean something that brings with it a message, as we said before, and causes a reaction to that chayis. I mean, so even a mention he doesn't know about Alakus, at least he feels a certain thanks for his chayis. He feels a certain, what you might call thanksgiving to who or to what, and a certain awareness that he's alive, and that's a thing to be thankful for. He may not even thank the Eivishter, but at least one has to be thankful, whatever that may mean. Meaning that the chayis brings with it an awareness and a value for that chayis, a recognition of its maila. Let's put it that way. And then there's a form of chayis where you don't really think about the chayis, and you don't really see the value of it, and you're not really fakocht beklal in what your chayis represents. All you do is just think of living the day out and living weiter, as they say, overstupt weiter atop. Therefore, there's a form of chayis which it's in as just kiyum, and that's not legabi amiti as a chayis. That's not chayis, even though it is chayis. And that's what he says over there in Tanya, in Perek Kof Beis over there. The Alter Rebbe is mavaya that really that type of chayis, he calls it the inyan from mokim misa v'atuma rachmanin. Hashem yishmareinu. That's what he uses the word. Hashem yishmareinu. Over there, it's interesting that he talks about 3 different sort of efanim about the klippos. And one time he says chas v'sholem, and then another time towards the end he also says chas v'sholem. But in the middle, when he's talking about the mokim misa v'hatuma, but that's in the middle. That's not the finality of the abiyah. He uses the expression Hashem yishmareinu. In other words, Hashem should guard us. We should fall into such an awareness. In other words, there is a certain awareness, but it's Hashem, meaning Yud Kei Vav Kei, emes diklevedikait, and emes seeing how things are lamayla and what you anticipate them to be, etc. That should guard us. That should be a shmira, that we shouldn't fall into that way of looking at things, but just taking things as a granted metzias. So that's what we have to say. What the Rebbe means, that it's not bechinas chayis klal. No, then it's nivla ad sheloi Noida ki bol kibena. It's not recognizable that chayas went in. There's no sign of it. It just sort of it drops into the same old, what you might call schleppenish. It becomes the same old drag. So no matter what you put in there, it'll just turn into that. I said, it follows that's not chayas. Now we're going to see more about that as we go along. It is, but it isn't. Meaning, it's this idea of kiyum bilvad, and later we'll see it's what's called a he'ader. It's like negativity. It's like meant only for a negative thing. Yeah, like the Alter Rebbe brings up the whole reason why they're given chayas b'klalos kidei that they should be b'chirim mamela hanish yisur litin sochet teiv. Yeah, the tzaddikim. The whole thing is it's a how do you call it, a put-up job, as they say in the old Australian English. It's like a thing that's made in order to get to something which is also only a nisoya. It's not really that Hashem wants that behemoth. I said the fire. That's the pshat. Now we bring a new swara, a sort of a different sort of cook of the same inyan. Will be Eitz Chaim Kosav. What the Eitz Chaim is the Mokh Sefer HaMokh of the Arizal, Alitei Rabbeinu Chaim Vital. Hatam, the reason why the Chayes is not able to really be Machaya anything, it falls into a sort of a bliyah that's not really recognizable. Mipnei she'ein hakodesh or hekdesh misarev b'choil. Yeah, that hekdesh is not misarev b'choil. That doesn't mean that there can be certain dinim from taruvas in Poshet and Gashmi, as if something which is hektish falls into choil, then it can be a taruvas. There's even different dinim of bittul. It's only bottle ber echad mimasayim v'chulu, different than the dinim from this vahet stam. What he means is that something which is essentially kodesh, when I get to the inyan of chayis, but I get to the inyan of kedusha per se, is not able to be misarev. In other words, that which is already beget a choil, the hainu, it's no longer in the gvul ha-kedusha, albeit it may only be noiga. Well, that's in lahavdil ben kedush lechol that we say on Motzei Shabbos. Also for him, it's already been misrachik bedachis or kopanim inyan ha-kedusha, then it's called choil. If I mean something which is essentially hekdesh, something which is essentially kodesh, dahainu, that it's from the tzad bittul elov yisbarach, then the two can't be misarev. Now we'll see what we mean here by the inyan from misarev. That one can't be misarev with the other. So therefore, according to the Arizal, it's just not shayach. One can't. It's just not able to do that. Therefore, it doesn't have any effect. If it comes down there into the inyan from Choil, the inyan from Kodesh, then it doesn't. It becomes impotent or unable, because it's not able to mix there. And that's what he says that we mean by mixing. We mean the idea of giving a chayas pinimius. He said, "V'hainu gamkein kanal." It's similar to the idea of a bav, but a slightly different angle. The mipnei she'ein bohem bitul. Alkein ein achayes pohem b'chinas isarvus. Well, isarvus means mixture together. The inyan ha'isarvus hu she'mischabrim o misachdim ze'im. Like in the din of a tarivas. When we talk about in Eurodeya, the even tarivas, that when things mamish mix together, then from the outside eye they look like one thing. Otherwise, there's no shayla. If the kol echad is aim b'fnei atzmi, then obviously you separate the shayla from the dova hamuta. But once they've been misarev, then it's kosher lamed, which is which, or you have to have dinim of bittul and so on, because the inyan from tarevas brings to a certain isachadus. They become like one entity or one like material in front of you, so therefore you have to come under some other separation, which is the concept of bittul, inyanim ka'ela. That was it. That's the inyan of a isanovis in the inyan hamusik shaboy. The two inyanim join together and they form a actus and an interaction one between the other, and that's a simple din why there can be what's called blior in I don't mean blior the way you used it here in the Indian tarivas, because when a tarivas mixes and it gives over its what you might call qualities or its tchunos into the dover that it's misarev, because they interact in a form of actus. So therefore, you got to work out how can we help you be matter this and beklal, because it's become like a new entity that's like two things mixed together in an interaction. So therefore, said the Rebbe, what does that mean in our language, in the language of Pnimis HaTorah? He said, "Dahainu b'bchinas islabshus pnimi." Yeah, that's the idea of Isarvas. That when we talk about Isarvas, we mean that one Inyan is mislavish in the other. Shemeir b'izgalas u'misachei. He's meir b'izgalas, and so that what he's been mislavish in him becomes a vehicle to assist him in the gilu. Yeah, like we said, the midas are mislavish in dibur, the midas are mislavish in ma'aser, or the moichen are mislavish in midas. It's all in order that the original inyan should be miskala, and the midas, they become a koyach for which that inyan reaches its ultimate kilo in a way that it can come to the zulas with the whole inyan mashik in the moichen and able to do that v'chule. That's the idea of islabshus, that one enters the other in order to shine further and in order to give its whole shefa further through the isaktas and having the mila of the dove, the misachid boy. So that's the Indian. So the Rebbe says that the beer of the Eitz Chaim is that in something which is already whole, even if it's already bedakas, it's low kedusha, then that type of Indian can't occur between the chayes of kedusha and that thing which has already become whole. They can't do that. They can't combine together in a way that they'll be just a vehicle one to the other, and they'll interact in order that one should be miskala through the mila of the other. That just doesn't happen. Ma'ashenkin b'sitra achar eina b'bchinas is alvus ki'im elamai oy she'imad aleim muvdal mihem oy shu b'chinas blia bohem. But now he adds an expression which is important for our purposes. He said it's there, even from blia shehu inyan hagolus k'moish kosu b'makim acher. So now we see that it's not a pshat that there's no chayes whatsoever, and it's not a pshat that there's no appearance of the kedusha of this what we call hakoidish or hektish in the inyan of the klippa.